Hi everyone, it's Betty and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be doing bread and my basic bread recipe. This is the most versatile bread recipe. I did a lot of homework and tried a lot of recipes. I was a little late on the whole lockdown, everybody jumping on board to the bread. But once I did, then I was like, going through all kinds of recipes, making it by hand. Used to have a bread maker, and that's how I would make bread. But everyone was like, "Oh no, do it! It's not that hard. No knead bread." And I've tried some, and they were kind of mealy, or they weren't light, fluffy inside. You wanted a nice bit of chewiness, but and a nice crust. So what I did is I just went through a whole bunch, tried a bunch of things that didn't work, and then started to try to figure out how to do it, um, make it as easy as possible because, hey, um, who doesn't like it easy and tasty and one that works consistently and you get a nice bread out of it. And now I did say it was versatile. Now this bread actually is, I use it as, you know what, make a round loaf. I'll make a cheese loaf from the same thing. I will use the basic recipe to make rye bread. I will use the basic recipe to make sourdough bread. So all kinds of things from this base because this has consistently worked. And I have tried, even with the rye, when I wanted to do rye, oh my goodness. I think the first loaf was like a rock. I followed the directions exactly. And I was like, what is going on? And again, did homework. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going back to this basic recipe, switch out some of the flour, and let's see how it works. Turned out perfect and in high demand actually in my house and by friends. Same with the sourdough. Wasn't working. I don't know how many things I read and watched. And then went right back to my basic recipe, and guess what? Then it worked. So this is a really good basic recipe that you can actually adjust as you need and as you like. And we'll do a series and I'll walk you through making the cheese bread, um, the rye bread and the sourdough bread. And you see how much easier this is really than any other um, thing out there, I'll be honest. And it's also really good pizza dough. So this basic recipe can make as pizza dough. And to be honest, that's what I'm probably going to be making tonight for dinner. But I'm also going to make a loaf of bread for you guys and to give to my mom when I go over there. So what do we need? All right, so it's not too much. You need a glass bowl, or not a glass bowl, a bowl, a large bowl. Everything is done in here. I've got my spatula. You need a measuring cup for your water, measuring spoons, and to bake it. All right, I have my Dutch oven here. If you don't have a Dutch oven, not a problem. Use a baking sheet or some other vessel that you want to use for it. This obviously makes it much crispier, but if you want a nice crisp crust, all you do is put water. When you start to preheat your oven, put water into a heat-proof dish, pop it in the bottom of the oven so that it creates steam. That's what will create a crispy crust. Okay, so though this does an excellent job and you will get a better crispy crust out of this, it is not 100% necessary. Okay, so let's get started with the ingredients. So we've got, as you saw in my bowl, I have 2 cups of flour. Okay, 2 cups of flour. And I'm just going to pop this down so you can actually see what I am doing. Now we're going to put, so the 2 cups of flour, we've got my salt. I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of salt. And I just mix that through, get it all the way through the flour so you don't have, spots that are salty and others that aren't. And you shouldn't, but hey, you just never know. And then you've got your yeast. So you can use any kind of yeast. You've got here the traditional dry active dry yeast or the instant yeast. And since this is open, I'm going to be using the instant yeast. Exactly the same amounts I have not found too much of a difference in any recipe I do using either one of these. Okay, so you're also going to do 1 teaspoon, that's it, of the yeast. All right, these go back into the refrigerator after you're done with them to keep them fresh. I mix that through a little bit. 2, also it's just to get it all around. I know my yeast is active and fresh, but if you are unsure, put your teaspoon in your warm water and just, you want it to be warm to the touch. You can stick your finger in it and it should just be, mildly warm, very comfortable, okay? Not hot. You definitely do not want hot or boiling water, just warm water, okay? And you do 1 cup of water. And we just pour that right in here. Boom. And you can do this with your hands, but because my hands will go in here later. But I find it's actually, these little spatulas do a fantastic job of just, want to bring it all together. All right. And then we're going to put roughly about a tablespoon of olive oil. There we go. There we go. If you don't like olive oil, you can also put some melted butter in here. I'm sure it would definitely change the flavor and probably make it a little softer if that's the kind of dough you want. But play around with it. This is such a simple recipe that, and see, I've got it all. This is a really sticky dough, just so you know. I've got it all well incorporated here. And we're gonna just get all this stuff off of my spatula. We are actually done with that now. This is ready to proof. So I will be putting some plastic wrap on it. You don't have to do plastic wrap. You can just put a cloth on it as well. Either one, it doesn't really matter. You just don't want things to fall into it, depending on where you're going to place it for proofing. Okay, this is a no knead dough, but what you do is you're going to incorporate air and elasticity into it by pulling it once it's risen a little bit. So we've got this. You're going to put this into a warm, dry spot in your oven. I highly recommend, if you don't have a proofer setting in your oven, which I luckily do, and most don't. So put this in your oven off, but with the light on. All right, so you don't want to turn the oven on at all. Just turn the light on, and that way it's out of a draft, and you will get a little bit of heat. And that's all you need, is just a tiny bit of heat from the light to keep this warm. And we give it about, if you have a proofer, it's quicker because it is a little bit warmer. If you have a proofer, it's about 45 minutes. If you do not have a proofer, you're going to go for about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, okay? And pop it in there, and then we'll be back, and I'll show you what to do with it next. Okay, so this is proofed for the 40 minutes, and you can see, I'll just pull this back. We'll just take it off and put it aside because we're going to continue to use it. The dough is risen and spread out a bit. It looks very lumpy and stuff. That is going to change very soon. You'll see. What you need to do is wet your hands. So I just put some water here. I just washed them, but you just need wet hands so it doesn't all stick. And what you're going to do, hopefully you can see this well. So you're going to stick your hand right in and pull the dough over itself. What you're doing in essence here is you're putting air into the dough, which it needs, as well as create elasticity. Okay, so this is, and you're just going to do this until you'll see that it doesn't stretch as much. It's actually, you're actually creating that gluten and the elasticity. So you do that as many times as you can, and there you go. It's done. I'm gonna get some of this off my hands. I'm gonna cover it back up. We do this 3 times, and you can actually see, hopefully, that the texture of the dough is actually becoming a little smoother. And each time we do this, it becomes smoother and smoother. It'll almost look silky by the time we're done. So we do this for another 40 minutes or 1 hour, depending on if you have a proofer or not. Back in the oven, turned off oven with the light on or your proofer on. And we pull it out and do it again. Okay, so we'll be back to do that one more time. Okay, so our second rise is done, and you can see it actually looks very different than the first time, grown even more, which is perfect. We've taken the plastic off. You want to make sure, again, that your hands are nice and wet and clean. And we do the same thing. You go to the bottom, you pull, and you fold over. Same thing, we're just creating air and elasticity. All right. And you do this as many times as you can. Minimum of 4. If you can get, 6, usually it's about 6 to 8 I try to do, but 4 is the minimum. And you can see already that was number 6, and it's starting to get tougher to pull over. And I think that's good. And I'm just going to roll it over so you can actually see how much smoother this looks. So we cover it and we actually let it rise one last time. So this is 3 times, okay, before we shape it and get it ready for baking. All right, so another 40 minutes if you have the proofer, another hour, and it will rise even more. Now that you've built this air into it and created the elasticity, each time you proof it, it rises a little bit more, which is, it's great to see. Anyways, so that's in the bowl. Hopefully you can see, and it'll be much bigger this next time. All right, back in a couple minutes. Oh, I guess for you, seconds, but it is going to sit there for about 40 minutes in the oven again. Okay, it's finished its third rise, and I don't know if you can see all the bubbles and how much it's grown. It's actually, I'm going to take the plastic off and we can take a quick peek. See, it fills up a good chunk of this large bowl. You can see the air bubbles in it. That's why I like using this, because you can actually see this side is even better. You can really see all the pockets of air and how this is grown beautifully. And so that is the last time we're going to be putting it into the to rise in the oven, because at this point we're going to do the same thing we've done all times and wet our hands. I just washed them actually, but dried them before I took this out of the oven where it was rising. And so they're nice and wet, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to pull up. Oh, do you see the beauty of the elastic there? Look at that. And you just dive in. You don't need to be gentle, right? Because you're, like I said, you're incorporating the air, creating the elasticity. It's amazing. Really is, actually. And we just fold it over. And what I've done is right next to me here, I think you see a little corner of it. I'm going to move that bowl out of the way. I have a basket here lined with parchment paper. So now that I've done that, I need a little bit more. Just going to pop that back in there. A little bit more water, because otherwise it's really sticky dough, okay? You just need water. Don't use flour. Water is all you need. Just so your hands are damp. And what you're going to do is you're going to pull in. So you're going to make a nice ball. All right, because I'm making a round loaf. If you're going to do this in a loaf pan, you can actually put it directly into the loaf pan. All right, just you'll shape it a little differently. You're going to make it a little longer so it fits in. So you'll be going, pulling it slightly longer so it could go into that. But here we're making the ball. And we're going to Just once we have a nice smooth top, right, like that, we're gonna pop it in here and cover it again. And we're just gonna let it sit. This is it. We're gonna be can use the same plastic. You don't want it to touch. If it does, you can just put a little bit of oil, which, so let me rinse my fingers. Which I probably will need to do is just oil this slightly. I have my oil in one of these little sprayers, and you just spray it on, rub it around with your finger on the plastic. That will make sure that the dough doesn't stick when you take it off. And there we go. I actually put a cloth over the top of it as well, just so it can stay nice and warm. We're just gonna put this aside. Again, in a nice spot. We're not gonna be able to use our oven this time because we're going to do the preheat. If you're doing it in your Dutch oven, so I've got my Dutch oven right here, right? What we're gonna do is we're gonna place this into the oven, cold oven, all right? I'm gonna place this in the oven, set it for 425, and this will heat up with it, okay? So you want this hot, all right? No need for water. If you don't have a Dutch oven, you'll put the, if you have an oven-safe dish, with water, you're gonna put that in the bottom so it can actually start, while it's heating up, it starts to create the steam, so that you can have a crusty top, okay? The Dutch oven will give you the best crusty bread, just so you know. But that does help keeping the moisture in the oven. And then you would just preheat it to 425, and you can place that right into whatever vessel you're going to use for cooking it. If it's going to be a cookie tray that, in a ball, or a dish of some sort, like I said, a loaf pan, whatever, you would put it in there. So I'm going to just pop this into the oven, get that started, and then I want to talk to you about if we were using this, because this is exactly what you would do for making pizza dough. And so if I was going to make pizza with this, I'm going to just talk you through that process right now. Okay, so now I've got the oven on, and it is preheating to 425, like I said. So you've got that going on. If you were going to be using this dough for pizza, you would do everything like I did just up until now, including the parchment paper, but you wouldn't be using a basket. You can either, if you're going to roll it out on your counter, just lay it on your counter. If you use a board, which is what I usually do, put it on there, and I would actually flour the surface first. Because we're not doing that, I didn't flour it. So you flour the parchment paper, put the dough on, let it rest for about 10 minutes. That's it. Just cover it, let it rest for 10 minutes. And then you can roll it out to your pizza shape and get it going. It's really quite simple. So it's just a 10-minute rest, and then you can roll it out if you were doing pizza. Now that we're doing bread, we're going to let this rise for about 30. We're going to let it rest for about a minimum of 30 minutes while our oven heats up. And then we're just going to pop it into the Dutch oven. Hopefully I can get this all maneuvered so you can actually see what I am doing, because everything I've done so far right here on my island, we'll move over to the oven so you can see what we're doing there with the Dutch oven. All right, so we'll be back in about 30 minutes when it's ready to go. Okay, guys, oven is ready, and this is sat for 30 minutes. And let's take a peek at it. Just gonna move my camera. There we go. And it has grown some more. Look how beautiful that looks. And we're gonna just score it with a sharp knife. I'm just gonna put a couple of slits through it, just like that. I have my Dutch oven has preheated in the oven, like I said, from cold till now. at 425. I'm just going to pull it out. Make sure you have oven mitts. It's going to be crazy hot, okay? And then we're going to plop this right in. You'll see how easy this is. All right. Stinking hot. Take the lid off. Just pick this up right out of here with the parchment paper to see how easy that is. Plop it in. Put your oven mitt back on. Cover. This is going to create the steam and give you a nice crispy crust. And we put it in the oven, 425, for 30 minutes. All right. And then after the 30 minutes, we're going to take the lid off and let it bake for another 15 minutes. But we'll be back to show you that. All right, guys, the timer just went off and I need my oven mitts. Where did I put them? That's a good question. Give me one sec. Like not being prepared. Everything is super hot. So we're just going to open the oven and I'm hoping I can actually show you what we're going to do here. Actually, I think I only need one. And so it's been baking for 30 minutes. We're going to take a look in my oven. Pull this puppy out and we take the lid off and you can see how beautiful that looks. I'm just going to put this down. We're going to shut the oven, pop that back in. Bake for, sorry, I hope I don't make anybody dizzy there, for another 15 minutes. I'm just going to set the timer. Okay, and so that's going to go for another 15 minutes, and then it should be done. A little trick to make it extra crispy is once you turn it off after these 15 minutes, just crack the door open just a tiny bit and then let it sit there for about another 10 minutes. And that should make a really nice crispy crust on your bread. But we'll be back to see it come out in 15 minutes and possibly the extra 10 to make it extra crispy. See you in a minute. All right, look at that gorgeous loaf, nice and golden brown. Just pop it out of here with the paper. It's still hot, so you gotta be careful. Ooh. Get out of here. That out of the way. You hear that nice crispy crust. I did leave it open and let it sit for another 10 minutes so that we got that nice crispy crust. Ideally, you should wait about at least 10-15 minutes before you cut this bread. But hey, who can wait? Let's, my goodness. That is, that. And look at that gorgeous bread. A little bit of butter on there. Yummy. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that. And I will be back with some more ways to varieties of bread with this basic recipe. And it's quite simple. It just takes some time, obviously, but the work part of it is actually quite minimal. Because you're no kneading, just pulling the stuff and mixing it all together. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know if you try it. You can double this recipe. So this is actually not a huge loaf, but you know, plenty for my needs. And but you can double this if you have a big family or you just want more bread. Easily just double all of the ingredients, no problem. I've tried that. It works beautifully. Until next time, I think we'll try, when we're doing breads, I think we'll try the rye. It's really yummy. Anyways, you guys take care and we'll see you soon.